Give me one moment. I'm hooking up the gimbal. All right. That's a mess, but we're gonna try to. There we go. Let me figure this out. Oh, it's backwards. Okay. Sorry. Old man stuff. Let's see here. Scoot that up. There we are. Had to put it in manual. Okay. Greetings, travelers. Once again, it is I, the Reverend Victor S. Johnson. I've been places you've only read about. And this, as always, is my co-host and sidekick, Dudley. There we go. The illusion, Dudley. You gotta keep it. So today, we're walking through South-ish East Philadelphia on a free walking tour, giving the old tour we used to give. There we go. I am over here on Washington Avenue, which is, for folks who are not from here, quick pro tip, this is a nice place to park for free and, well, up to 2 hours, I believe, and check out the neighborhood of the Queens Village, which we are going to now walk through to get to South Street, and that's where we're going to begin. So, little backstory behind this. I was a tour guide for a number of years, and a number of those years were spent giving tours in Philly. Wait, I have the gimbal. Whoop. There we go, cool. A number of those years were spent giving tours in Philadelphia, and I'm going to see what I remember. I tried giving a pseudo tour last week as I was walking from the Rocky Run Marathon. Why is that going up? Now, whereas I am a good enough tour guide, I was never great at controlling a gimbal. Not yet. But this is the Old Swedes Church, by the way. I'm also testing the gimbal here because I wanted to be able to walk with like a shock absorber. But I also wanted to see what I remembered from my old tour route. And there's a big tourist industry in Philadelphia, but really you can give yourself your own tour, which is kind of cool. There's historical markers everywhere. A lot of these are original buildings, not the buildings over here, I believe. They were built that way. But maybe we'll see some street art too. So in the meantime, and we're at Water Street, and over there, it's going down. Cobblestones. Well, actually that's Belgian brick, but over there, down there is the Delaware River. Now, Belgian brick is like cobblestones, but it's, I want to say, cheaper, and we got a bunch of it from Belgium a long time ago and kind of just used it everywhere. And now everybody hates it, but it's great for horses. The problem with that is that we don't allow horses in the city anymore, so now the Belgian brick is for nobody. We're gonna head up Front Street. Front Street is the first street. Everything else after Front Street is numbered, just so we're aware. The Banksy-like art of the Philadelphia fanatic. A little about the street art in this city. Going back to the 1980s, we had a graffiti problem, if you look at it that way. And none of us really do, so we thought the graffiti could be a bit more productive. So it became street art when the city sort of hired muralists to paint murals and construct them all over the city. We have the, as you've seen in my other videos, we have that Keith Haring down in Point Breeze, which is very far away from here. It's like 20 blocks down. But we have that, and that is his only that has stayed in the same place since he created it. And I'm just keeping people out of the way. Oh, look at the buildings. There we go. Thank you, Gimbal. But we have over 4,000 outdoor murals. We're the mural capital of the world, as a matter of fact. We beat even Paris in that regard. Our original weird skinny streets. And we're just about to Queen Street. It is very cold today. And as I'm talking, you're gonna hear my breath. I, of course, as always, like I am wont to do, without my inhaler. Because I forgot it again. I managed to remember Dudley. There we go. VFW post for the armed services. But I managed to bring Dudley, always do. Gotta bring the talent. Got some more art down there under the bridge. But I never bring my own stuff or equipment. And we're on Queen Street. Gonna let that car go. Right away is fun, and as a tour guide, I tend to let people kind of just drive through. It's the best I can do for them. Those are the Indigo bikes. These are available for you to rent. Some are electric, some are traditional pedal. But they're a great way to get around the city at cost-effective prices. Oh, there we go. There's original buildings. Get the gimbal up. So funny thing about buildings like this. You see those stars? Right there on that one? Those are load bearing. There's a rod in the middle of those stars that go from the front of the building to the back, because the whole foundation there is brick, if you look. And we love our brick in Philly, but hey, brick falls down over time. So those rods keep the buildings from falling down. That's how you know you got an original one. Here's some street art. Now our next destination, and I'm going to turn down a side street, I think. Yes, I am going to jaywalk. We all do it. And Philadelphia police are very cool about it. There we go. I wonder what this trigger thing does on the gimbal. But our first destination is South Street. The famous South Street. A lot of performing arts and collective shops on that street, including the TLA, Theater of the Living Arts. So this part of Philadelphia wasn't one of the original parts of Philadelphia. This is Queens Village. William Penn had no desire to build the city below Society Hill. And we needed more land after a while. South Street, which we're again heading to now, that was going to be it. That was going to be the southern border. Oh, look at this thing. How do you get one of these? Anyway, South Street was the original border. Sorry, that went up. Of Philadelphia. All the streets running vertical in the city are numbered. You had I have no idea what's going on here. There we go. You had Front Street, and then you had the second, as you can see, coming up on 3rd. And this is Catherine Street. But once we get back into Society Hill, get north of South Street, the streets are going to be named after trees. And the reason for that is we had a literacy problem for years. I mean, we still do. But it was really bad when William Penn was planning the city. It was so bad that no one could read the street signs. So he had this idea, and he had his city planners plant a certain kind of tree on the corner of every block. So that's where we get chestnut, walnut, spruce, pine, and all those streets. Because if you knew your botany, even if you didn't know your alphabet, you were never lost. Oh, I was saying earlier about the mural program. By the way, some original buildings here. You can see the marked historical markers. It's actually nearly impossible to do outdoor renovations in this part of Philadelphia. Like, you have to go through a lot of tape to get it done, because we do take pride in our original buildings. That was one of the things instituted by, old fire marker there, by Mr. Edmund Bacon, our former city planner, and Kevin Bacon's dad. Kevin Bacon used to live in Rittenhouse Square. There we go. All right, I think we're in third. Yeah, I think we walked past second and we're in third. So we are going to turn right. Here we go. It's like flying a plane. We're going to turn right past New Wave Cafe, and we are going to head towards South Street. That's our first stop. Very gray day today, very cold. Lovely 46 degrees or so. So we turned down 3rd and Catherine. This used to be my Segway route. How was it riding a Segway? It was wonderful. Well, riding a Segway to give tours, it was wonderful except for all the PTSD. And up we go. And we'll pull back up. Again, the gimbal's lost. I wonder what this trigger does. But I digress. So yeah, William Penn didn't even want to build down here. This was, I want to say, Lenape land, and he kind of negotiated because we needed to build more south. We had a population boom. Oh, there's the wind. I wondered if I was going to need a microphone. I don't have one anyway. But with the population boom came the desire to move south. So he bought all this, and now we have Queens Village. And we're walking up. Fitzwater, I think we're close. So we're going to turn, pop on over here. There we go. I'm testing the tilt joystick on this, and I'm used to inverted flight controls. So up is up and down is down. Now we're good. Oh, there's some fun art. Let me go down. So I keep trying to say it. Basically in the 80s, the then mayor, Wilson Good, he started a program with Jane Golden, who's an artist in the city, to create as much street art as murals that the city could produce. It all had to have a message, but it was to keep at-risk youth from, I guess, staying at risk. One-way street. And it worked out. Again, outdoor mural capital of the world. We just haven't seen one yet. You'll see them in South Philly. There's one I want to start with. And we're at Bainbridge. We're almost to South Street. Now, I had planned to go into Old City, which may or may not still happen. Again, I'm not feeling well. and it's very cold and it's very wet, and a lot of traffic out here. But also, I don't know if we'll make it there. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, south is going to take a lot of our time as it is. I'd at least like to get to the hospital. And the hospital is what's in the thumbnail there. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Now, 4th, which is the next street over, is Fabric Row. There's a lot of places to get original fabric, but we're not going down that far. That went down. There we go. That Fabric Row had been around for a while. The reason for it is it used to be very, very inexpensive to operate a business on these blocks. You could sell on carts on the sidewalk with like a $50 a day business license. Excuse me, $5 a day. Even better. So for $5 a day, you can come out here and just sell fabric by the yard. Here we go. So with that, I can't believe the sign's still here. Here's our first stop, and this is John's Bar and Grill, which is no longer open, but that is the birthplace of everyone's favorite stooge, and Philadelphia's own Larry Fine. We'll get around to the mural in a minute. We're gonna have to cross for that. Get us the best shot. But we'll turn around and have a look. Right there. It's funny, Larry learned how to play the violin. And we bring it back around. Learned to play the violin as a child because acid burned his hand and mangled it, and the doctors were like, well, to strengthen your hand back, you gotta take an instrument. I'm paraphrasing that, of course. And in doing so, took up the violin and became legendarily good at it. Or the fiddle, viola, one of those things. Whatever was in that street art is what he did. So we're almost to Lombard. And we're getting closer to more original Philadelphia. But now that we've seen Larry Fine, we should be towards, and we passed South Street, so as such, we're actually going to be in Queens Village now. So we crossed the border, or excuse me, Society Hill. We're out of Queens Village. We are now in Society Hill. And it was called Society Hill because the Society of Free Traders used to live in this neighborhood. Ooh, we're at our first ghost spot. That is St. Peter's Church, and it's more the churchyard. I'm gonna head over to it, and I'll give you a tale of St. Peter's Churchyard. Just wander over there. This is gonna be a good one. So, to prep you on the way over, this used to be one of the two churches overseen by Bishop William White. The other is Christ Church, the then largest building in the country, and I want to say the biggest church in Philadelphia still, but it's way up there past Market Street. So this was the other one he would work over, and this was St. Peter's Church. And you had a lot of celebrities who would come down here because they didn't feel like walking up to Christ Church. You had George and Martha Washington. You had, I want to say Dr. Philip Singh Physic, whose house should be out here somewhere. Oh yeah, we get to go in it. Dr. Philip Singh, Physic. Sorry, I'm not used to being here during the day, so I forget that, like, I can just come in here like a person. And others would come here. This church is notable for being haunted by a few things. Oh cool, there's an audio tour too. Neat. We had a couple of Native American dignitaries here a long time ago, chieftains. And I forget the tribe offhand. Like, I want to say Iroquois. But somehow, the Iroquois chieftains caught smallpox of all things. Can you believe it? Well, we tried to do the right thing, and we buried the chieftains here. We offered the grounds of St. Peter's to the chieftains. But in America, death is a business, as you know, and hey, guess what? You gotta buy the markers. They didn't know that, and we have no idea where they're buried. So it said that the only way we'll ever find out is by a black specter that haunts this churchyard some nights. Kind of just patrolling a patch of land that I've never personally seen. That's going up. There's a bust in a window. But a black specter will be patrolling the area, kind of looking over the bodies, but also looking for them. Again, I've never seen it. I've given a number of tours in this area, but that's the story anyway. There's a couple of other ones. There's a horse, like a nightmare horse, that brays out and kind of roams these grounds, like in the middle of the night. And it could be a number of ghost horses. There's a few. We'll see if we can get to them in this. But one is a horse that crashed head on into a building up on Market Street back in the 19th century. It's potentially that one, or it's the horse of a stock trader who died up on 4th, I want to say, across from the First Bank. And we might get to that too. Ooh, drink it all in. That's what should have been the thumbnail. Woo! There we go. You put that down. Bring it on over. Oh, wow. Stephen Decatur is buried here, and I had no idea. So this is a pure accident. All right? Stephen Decatur actually died in southern Maryland in a duel at Bladensburg. He lived in Washington, D.C. He was a Commodore, and he was shot by the man he essentially replaced. He's said to haunt his house down in D.C., the Decatur house, and the Decatur house sticks out like a sore thumb because, you know, it's a very old house next to a bunch of wide open stuff. It's like 2 blocks over from the White House. But he said to haunt his house, like going over the morning of the duel over and over and over again. And I've been to Bladensburg too. I didn't know he was buried here. Like, again, I don't often come here during the day. But there you go. We're all learning something today. And that is Commodore Stephen Decatur. Why'd they bring him up here? I mean, I don't mean to... Well, let me cut myself off before I step in something. Yep, here is actually the marker regarding those tribal chieftains that we don't know where they are. Smallpox and died, there we go. And this is a sort of unofficial marker because, again, we don't know where we put them. But we acknowledge them for what that's worth. So there's that. And I talked about the horse. There's one other ghost, but I don't think it's of note. Just kind of in the middle. And, there's the Pine Street Church. Now, interesting thing about the Pine Street Church. If you've seen the Adam Sandler movie Hustle, out on Netflix, which was filmed in Philadelphia, that's the church where they're having a drive-in, it's like a camp-out movie night, but they're showing Evil Dead on the back of the church through a projector. Now, I was actually here giving a tour one night, and I walked into the shop with my tour group. Funny enough, they didn't use the recording, but we had no idea what was going on, and then a bunch of people with like giant Adam Sandler heads are like waiting for an autograph, and I'm like, I don't think he's coming. But that's what it is. Some dude on a bike just went by. I thought it was Shane Gillis, which would track. I don't know if he's still here. I'll use his name in the thumb in the tags, if it gets this out to people. But we're gonna cross past Pine. We're heading to Delancey and Spruce. There's another stop on here, and I'm kind of doing my route backwards in the rain, so we know. But we've got a few things coming. Now, here's where we get into the old buildings, as you can see. And I'll see if I can get a historical marker up. Let me swap to the other side. I got something coming. I try not to film people live, but it's inevitable. Inevitable. Here we go. Oh, cool. I think this locks it in place. The trigger on the back. So, that right there is the physic house, the Dr. Why am I farting on that one? Having a brain fart. Well, that's because it was like the Henry Physic House, but Henry being the last name. And there's a lot of death in here. It's very haunted. They don't like to admit it. Actual historians, and not me. But Dr. Physic is considered the father of modern surgery. Philip Singh Physic, yes. And this is the Physic Henry house. Mr. Henry died in the house of yellow fever. A lot of people did in the 1790s. Not in his house. But there he is. Henry Hill. Oh yeah, Hill Physic. So Mr. Henry Hill. And then he died, and then Dr. Philip Singh Physic takes it over. And he's considered the father of modern surgery across the world, not just here. He invented like the forceps, Dr. Philip Singh Physic did, and a number of things. He perfected the autopsy. That's where a lot of the ghost stories come from. A lot of people are worried about the basement down there. Let's bring it back. There we go. But I've never been in the basement. Anyway, they hate the ghost stuff here, but they'll do ghost stuff on their own too, and I can't blame them. As we're moving along, we're heading to Spruce. So I think I have to cross over to get to our next stop. Yeah, I do. We'll do Old St. Mary's. That's a long, fun story I used to end on. And if it weren't raining and 40 degrees, I'd tell it to you in full. But basically it involves Commodore John Barry, precursor to Commodore Stephen Decatur. And John Barry is buried there along with, hey, get this, Mary Barry, his wife. Her last name wasn't Barry, I don't think, or maybe it was, but that was his first wife. She died, and she was buried at Old St. Joe's. And all of our churches are old something. Like St. Peter's was Old St. Pete's. The Pine Street Church is the old Pine Street Church. I don't know why. We just kind of do stuff like that. And we're crossing. Oh, and always follow traffic laws to the best of your abilities, because it's a nightmare here. It is a nightmare. I'm a rule follower not because I'm a fan of authority, but I'm a fan of being alive. So we're going to come up here. This is the second oldest Roman Catholic church coming up in Philadelphia. First one's around the corner. Is it Old St. James? We'll look in a minute. And I know that, I just don't know it off the top of my head. Those are the Society Hill Towers, designed by architect Paine, way back when we were trying to turn Society Hill back into the place to be. And there we go. Now this one's interesting. You like that? You like that tracking shot? Thank you, Gimbal. You're wet, and I hope you don't short out. But I'm glad you're here. And this is the memorial to Commodore John Barry. Anyway, he married Mary Barry, and she died. I don't mean to sound callous, but then he married someone like a year later named Sarah Austin, who actually worked under Betsy Ross as a seamstress. And it said that Mary Barry would haunt Sarah Austin while she was married to John Barry. Say all that 5 times fast. So, Mary was buried in the not too far distance, and you might have seen this on some of my banners somewhere. But Mary was buried, and we'll go to that church, and it got so bad for Sarah Austin while they were in church, she would get just like abused by a ghost in front of everybody. So John and Sarah came here to the church and then were buried here. But the problem is the other church, like they dug up their bodies and needed them reburied, so they got buried here. So now Mary Barry is buried next to John Barry for all eternity anyway. That's kind of funny, isn't it? Anyway, it's actually haunted by John's brother Patrick, and no one knows why, because Patrick Barry was lost at sea. He just disappeared and was never found. But it said he haunts his cemetery. Mary Barry, John Barry Cemetery. We're getting there. Let's head to the other one. And that's the second oldest one, by the way. The Pope. Pope Francis was here, I forget when. I think the banner is still up. Whenever he visited Philadelphia, they just left the banner straight up. That's it. I don't even remember when that was. 2015, I want to say. Yeah, that's it, 2015. Yeah, not too bad. We're getting it together. So, we're going to cross and check out that other church, and I'll see how much I remember within an hour, and then I'll walk back. It's again cold and wet, as you can tell, but we're having fun, and it's a beautiful fall day. I can't believe I accidentally found Stephen Decatur's place. Well, his grave. I've found the house before. So, we are going to cross, and then cross once more. We might just jaywalk if we can, and we will. And there we go. Old St. Joe's was right the first time. We'll get into that one just a little bit. Ooh, rain's getting bad. So I'm going to bring that over here and up. Okay, so we're walking towards the Old St. Joe's Rectory. Old St. Joe's is actually the first Roman Catholic church in Philadelphia. William Penn, being a Quaker, was very groovy about freedom of religion. And I apologize, these are the Society Hill Towers, I think. Or there's 2 sets. But the Paine thing is correct. There's just a lot of towers. I want to say, no, I think those, the first ones were, I don't know. I do know that this... Sorry, my button popped up. I think I'm done being loud. Okay, sorry. I accidentally tried to send it to my Twitter and God no. This is the Philadelphia contribution ship. This was actually the first fire insurance in the country, and Ben Franklin created it. You see the 4 hands there? You probably can't. But the idea was, he was part of the first volunteer fire department, Ben Franklin was. But they would only put out fires if you had his insurance in a real gangster move. You know, so you had to have the fire insurance. They'd just let it burn, or someone would have to come over with a bucket. But that's his old building. So we'll take a walk through another churchyard if it's open, but this is Old St. Joe's. Now remember, a graveyard is connected to a church, otherwise known as a churchyard. A cemetery is off on its own. And this was the first Roman Catholic church in Philadelphia. Also the biggest for a time. And it did a lot of work helping the poor and the sick and whatnot. We have freedom of religion here in Philadelphia, all thanks to William Penn. There we go. Well, there's another good ghost story next door. But thanks to William Penn, so a lot of Catholics came over here. That's why it's all Irish and Italian, pretty much. But I digress. And it's like, the thing about Philadelphia is no matter your background, you have a slight Italian accent. Like, I'm Irish and Southern, and somehow I sound like this, and I can't figure out why. But we'll head up here. And then I might turn back. Now that is the Todd house. That's actually Dolly Madison, the First Lady's former home right there. Her husband, John Todd, her first husband died in it of yellow fever. The yellow fever was pretty much a catch-all. And she kind of stayed in Philly with the house. She had nowhere else to go. And she met James Madison at a party because Aaron Burr, of all people, introduced them. Alright, we're getting to a couple of other buildings. I'll probably head back down 3rd Street. I'm going to cut this live in another little bit, but we got a few more things to talk about. On the corner there is Bishop William White's house, and I've never been inside it, and I want to because it's supposed to be really, really haunted. But it's been closed since COVID, so I have no idea what's in there. I'm just told it's really, really haunted. In the field, see that Gothic building? I'll get to that in a minute. But in the field, oh, what the hell? They put a bell there. So this was actually Benjamin Rush's house there, where the bell is. It fell down. That's why we have stars on all the brick buildings. And now it's called the Rush Garden, but they put that bell in recently. Like very recently. I'll take a walk through that in a minute. But that again is Benjamin Rush's house. It's supposed to be very haunted by the bishop. He's the one who gave the sermon at Old St. Pete's and Christ Church. And this guy, we're gonna need that to come back to me in a minute. Like, I know what it is. I'm gonna cross here. The Merchant Exchange Building. The Merchant Exchange Building was our version of a stock market. That was created by Stephen Girard. And we've got one more featuring Stephen Girard, but check this out. If we swivel, that house that's sticking out on the row, that was the Philadelphia home of one Alexander Hamilton. So there's at least one Alexander Hamilton reference if I don't get to the second one. Let me plug my phone in a little bit. There we go. So we're going to take a walk through this garden here. Again, this is new to me. We'll turn that back. But yeah, this was the land belonging to Dr. Benjamin Rush, founding father, signer of the Constitution, one of the first medicine men in Philly. Quack. We had to be honest, he was a quack, but he tried, and he did believe in not only herbalism, but addiction recovery. Like, that addiction was a disease and not a moral failing. Is this the bicentennial bell? That doesn't seem right. It's labeled like it's the bicentennial bell, but there's no way that can be unless we just got a new bell. I have to read that when I get out of here. We'll go through Rush's garden to the back alleys here. This is really improved since I've been here. I know what they're doing next to it though. The building they're working on over there, that is the First Bank of the United States of America. Let me get out of this thing before we're trapped with a series of ghosts. The First Bank of the United States of America. And that was the idea, once again, of Alexander Hamilton. It was kind of our first federal bank, not our first literal bank. There we go. Shift the gimbal, and perfect. And the idea was that, hey, America did need to tax people after all. Those are park ranger vehicles. The U.S. Parks Department office is right there, next to the American Revolution Museum. But they're working on the First Bank, which is very haunted by the ghost of Hamilton himself, who is said to engage in poltergeist activity. Have I ever heard it? No, but this used to be a favorite spot of mine on the tour because I would work the old swizzle sticks. And I would see, you know, I would see if Al was home that night. Now you've seen it too. I'll try to get close. I don't know why there's a faux marble front with a brick facade, other than the love of Romanism amongst the founding fathers, especially Ben Franklin. But woo, creepy. So we'll turn back. That's the wrong way. There we go. And up, turn. Beautiful, I'm getting the hang of this. That is the Merchant Exchange Building, again, our stock market. That was formed by Stephen Girard. Stephen Girard ended up buying the First Bank of the United States after the government sold it off because, you know, its purpose was to get a war chest together, and hey, we're never going to have any wars again after the whole revolutionary thing, right? So we got rid of it and he bought it. That was his personal office, known as Girard Bank. It was so he could oversee the Merchant Exchange Building. Stephen Girard had a lot of money for his time. This is rumored to be haunted by a guy who lost a lot of money. His horse bucked him to death after he shot a homeless man in the street. And now it's said you could see that rich guy around back on certain nights in April or August. One of those months beginning with an A. And we'll check that out. We'll head over to City Tavern. I think we have time for that. This ended up being more fun than I thought. I'm covered in rain, but we're all learning. And that is the Nelson Building. The middle one being Alexander Hamilton's former home. It's next to the Ritz 5 Movies. Okay, and this is where the horse bucked the gentleman to death. He now just kind of sits on the curb, and then you hear a horse bray, and he freaks out and kind of falls into the asphalt. You'll notice these are actual cobblestones, I think, and not Belgian brick. In the distance, that building there is City Tavern, said to be haunted by a waiter who died in a duel. And what did he do after he died? Well, he came back to work, which is a fate worse than death, but also it leads to the theory that when we die, we go to the place where we were happiest, and we just kind of go back into our routine. Now that big freaky gothic Ghostbusters building there, that's actually our customs house. Why they needed it to be that creepy, like the Shandor building. I don't know, but they did. Anyway, City Tavern is also haunted by a bride who died in a fire. That fire actually burned the building out the first time. They rebuilt it in the 1960s, and then it operated until 2019. There was one more fire that mysteriously put itself out, according to my tour notes. And we're gonna walk back. Yeah, those are the Society Hill Towers, my fault. They were designed by I.M. I believe, unless they're the ones off of 3rd Street. One of those is that thing. But we will take 3rd Street back down towards south. It keeps trying to get me to send this to Twitter because of the rain. So I'm gonna call this very soon. I can't think of anything else we're missing on 3rd. We took 4th over. The only other thing would be, there's one more house down there. I'll see if we can get to it as we walk. But I hope this is enlightening in some way. Please don't sign any of this in a term paper. Not because I don't mind if you take my stuff, it's all public knowledge, but you know, it's pretty working, of course. And we're popping it through. Let me get that down. There we go. Thomas Paine Place. So this is where Thomas Paine published Common Sense, the pamphlet that kicked off the Revolutionary War, because, you know, do we even really need a king at all? That's basically what the pamphlet asked. And it made a lot of good points, and people actually read it. Now they're going to tell you, yes, we do need a king, you're stupid. I don't know, that's the most political I'm going to get on this, or one of these. And there we go. There is the marker for Thomas Paine Place. So I'm going to take us past the mayor's house on this lovely rainy fall day. I have my parka on. It's not quite waterproof, but it's getting there. Also, we'll find out if Dudley's all wet. It's weird if a ghost can get wet. It's also weird that I needed the ghost. Dudley hasn't made a single appearance since the beginning. As we walk through, I'm gonna get my hood up. There we go. As we walk through, see some of those original buildings with the Historical Society markers on it, but I point this out because we're coming up on the mayor's house. Not the current mayor of Philadelphia, but the last mayor before the Revolutionary War and the first mayor after. And that would be the Powell House. And we'll head over there. Let's head on through. The Powell House is kind of owned by the same people who own the Hill Physic House. Currently closed. They don't have enough people. That's fine. They're all volunteers, do I know. But Samuel Powell, mayor of Philadelphia, fought in the battle. He was kind of a centrist until the king, I kid you not, tried to crash in his house. He sends a dignitary over and he's like, yeah, we're gonna take you upstairs. Y'all get the hell out. And, you know, Samuel Powell was a Philadelphian through and through. He's like, get the hell out of my house. And that's part of how the Revolutionary War happened. I'm sugarcoating a lot of it, but not a joke. Martha Washington's tea set is in there, as the Washingtons lived somewhere around here for a bit until they moved into the President's Mansion, otherwise known as kind of the first White House. We're gonna walk down 3rd. I think I have one more as we get through the rain. I don't know how to stop this because the screen is all wet, and like a touch screen, once it gets wet, forget it. But we're walking to Spruce. I'm actually gonna cut this now. Thank you all for tuning in with me today. All I'm going to do is drive home, but it was fun. I'm glad I could do a live. We're going to do more in the future, more brief tours. Hopefully it's a lot more dry and a bit more warmer. But until again, I am the Reverend Victor S. Johnson. The battery is going out on the gimbal anyway. But I am the Reverend Victor S. Johnson. This, as always, is Dudley. Safe travels, traveler. Dudley hit the button. We got to turn off.